I talked to a caller on Dr. MICTAN, and also realized we had two researchers in the house, so maybe three. So if you all see something on these slides that I miss, please point it out, because again, this is not my forte. But this should give you something of an overview of the situation with HIV in Alameda County. And so when you're talking about our newly diagnosed cases, demographic characteristics, case rates by demographic groups, I know that the interest here today is largely on African Americans. The overview that Nina has prepared is really for the entire county. So you can kind of pull out the things that actually are of interest to you with regard to African Americans. So you can see distribution geographically as well as trends and rates. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay. I want to try to read this because I haven't actually seen it myself. One thing that Nina definitely stresses that what we have at Epi as a concept is that epidemiology records what is reported. So what we see is a picture that we know exists. What we don't know, of course, is left to the unknown. We can speculate about what that might actually be. So these are estimates of new diagnoses of HIV infection. And of course, as you mentioned, there are reporting delays because of the way the system actually works. When folks get diagnosed, how the doctors actually report that into the state, what gets reported to us, etc. Let's see, let's keep going. What she's done here on this slide is talking about newly diagnosed cases, cases of AIDS, or deaths, and persons living with HIV/AIDS in Alameda County. This is from 2006 to 2011. And you have an aggregate number here, 624 over the last 3 years of complete data. So that's the number of newly diagnosed cases with or without AIDS, 624 in Alameda County. The number of newly diagnosed cases for AIDS is on the line below. You see the deaths following that, and the number of persons living with HIV/AIDS. The total number as of 2011 is 4,875. How am I doing, researchers? Okay, good, thank you. Keep going. So, we have newly diagnosed HIV cases by sex and race, and this is where it becomes, I think, interesting for folks who are not epidemiologists, like myself. You can see male and female in your circle on the left. Blue, 83% is male, 16% female, and transgender and FTF, 1%. And then a demographic by race, ethnicity. Again, the total number being 624 cases. 25% are white. African Americans are 44% by 2015. API or Asian Pacific Islanders 10%, and others are unknown as 2%. I should say our being African American percentage of the population in Alameda County is 13% roughly. So you can see how disproportionately impacted we are. The bulk of those cases, as the slides may show, are based here in Oakland. Okay, let's go on. So next we have newly diagnosed cases by age group and mode of transmission in Alameda County for the last 3 complete years. And again, you can see 0 to 12, we have 19%, 13 to 19 years old, it's about 4%, 20 to 29 years old, young adults, 24%, and then a large number, 30 to 49 years old, 53%, and older than 50 is 19%. Sorry, that first blue square actually is so tiny because there aren't any cases. I misread that. So it's 50 plus years is 19%. For mode of transmission, MSM, 62% of the cases that we have. IDUs, 5%. MSM and IDU combined is another 5%. So actually that raises the number of MSM in the population, but changes the mode of transmission. Heterosexual contact is 14%, and I think that's worth noting just because so often it's still out of the general perception that this is associated with gay people. This is a disease that impacts everyone. And then finally, where we don't know how people have contracted the illness, is 14%. Keep rolling. Okay, newly diagnosed male and female HIV cases by race ethnicity in Alameda County. Let's see. So you have whites, 27%, African Americans, 41%, Latinos, 20%, APIs, 10, American Indian is, again, very, very tiny, it's 0.4%, and other unknown is 2%. That's for males. For females, this is quite extraordinary. 60% are African American. Whites 17%, Latinos 15%, also disproportionately impacted. APIs 8%, and I recently received some information from some of the Asian Health Services talking about the underreporting in the API community. And the estimates were that underreporting is as much as 80%. So these numbers, again, what we know, they don't reflect what we don't know. Average annual rates of newly diagnosed HIV cases by selected characteristics, and you can see, again, male and female, race, ethnicity. And these are 3-year averages. Anything to jump out, you guys? Okay, we'll keep going. Summary findings. So new HIV cases or diagnoses in Alameda County are predominantly among males, African Americans, and MSM, and that's certainly not news to anyone here. Over 60% of HIV diagnoses among women are among African Americans. About half of new HIV diagnoses among women are attributed to heterosexual conduct or contact. The burden of new HIV diagnoses among males is 5 times that for females. African Americans bear 5 times the burden of new HIV diagnoses compared to whites or Latinos in Alameda County. Adults ages 20 to 49 years old have the greatest burden of new HIV diagnoses, which is saying a lot given where we are 30 years into this and how much we know about this disease. I oftentimes, before I go to the next slide, just a small comment there. I want the science to somehow focus on what happens to people when you're in the moment. And when I say in the moment, I mean in the moment of some sort of intimate contact with someone. That's where the issue is. We all know what to do, what not to do, I think, generally speaking, but it's that decision point. And that's where we're not being engaged. So, trends in newly diagnosed HIV cases by race, ethnicity. You can see that the trend is down for African Americans. It's kind of gliding down, but it's still vastly higher than any other group in this county. And that is what is most alarming. That's why we have a state of emergency here in Alameda County.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
Still not loud enough even with the microphone?
That's me.
Okay. I'm still not used to yelling.
Thank you.
Okay. Geographic definitions, regions by city. So North County, we have Albany and Berkeley. The Oakland area, Oakland, Emeryville, where we're sitting today. Piedmont and Alameda. Central County, for those of you who don't know, there is a city called Alameda, not just the county. Central County, San Leandro, San Lorenzo, Ashland, Cherryland, Fairview, Castro Valley, Hayward, and South County, of course, is Union City, Fremont, Newark, and Sunol. Fremont is another hub for the epidemic in the South County. And in the Tri-Valley areas, Livermore, Dublin, and Pleasanton, where we actually see very few cases. So HIV cases from 2006 to 2011 by city and region. Again, you can see that Oakland by far exceeds any other city in the county in terms of the impact of HIV and AIDS. The Oakland area is dominant. It's like 68%, I think, is the total figure for all of our cases. Let's go on. Here we have 8 cases, deaths and persons living with HIV/AIDS. People living with AIDS particularly, by calendar year in Alameda County from 1980 through 2011. So this is the whole picture. And you can see where the interventions are for ART and HART in 1993 and 1996. Newly diagnosed cases of HIV. That data includes persons diagnosed with HIV regardless of the stage of the disease, i.e. with or without AIDS, HIV non-AIDS cases, and AIDS cases in Alameda County. And again, you can kind of see how things have gradually been moving up, but there's a line that kind of trends down since, say, 2009 of the new HIV diagnoses. You have People living with HIV/AIDS for males and females by race, ethnicity. Again, I think have we seen this one before? I think she may have left this one twice or maybe rewards.
Those are newly infected.
Pardon me. Okay. So this is a total picture. I'll let you all read the numbers for yourselves. And then again, by age group, we have males 3,969 and females 906. Again, the situation is pretty lopsided.
Excuse me?
Yes.
The colors on the left-hand side, the 50 plus and the 13 through 19, it seems very close to be the same color.
So down here,
there's
there's a very tiny thin line, if you can see it.
Okay.
You can barely get 0.3%. And that is
50 plus?
that is 13 to 19.
Oh, that's 13. Okay.
So the 50 plus is 49%.
Okay.
People living with HIV/AIDS, males and females, by mode of transmission. So again, this gets into behavior, which really I think is where the heart of the matter is. We are obviously disproportionately impacted in terms of race, but it's, when we're talking about transmission, it's about behavior. MSM, 72%, and IDUs, let's see, 4%, MSM and IDUs, 6%, heterosexual contact is 10%, and 7% for just IDUs, and that's males. 10% for males who are identifying as heterosexual. I think that's, again, another topic that we need to talk about. Our planning council, for example, just recently decided that we're going to do a needs assessment. I think that here's what checking. I think this is the first time we're going to actually do a needs assessment where we talk specifically about heterosexual males. So this is a growing and emerging population that we need to address. For females, again, you can see heterosexual contact is at 66%, IDUs 20%, and other is 14%. And then we have MSM by age group and race ethnicity. And I'm not going to labor the numbers here, but you can see that if there are questions, just stop me, I'll pause. Let's keep rolling. How am I doing for time? Okay. I don't know how many slides there are in this presentation, so I don't want to keep going too far. Heterosexual males and females by race, ethnicity, and county. Again, heterosexual males is 397, and heterosexual females is 597. And again, you can see the breakdown.
Hello?
So heterosexual males by and females by age group. Again, pretty overwhelming numbers. Then we have, again, by region. Let me get this, I think this looks familiar to me again.
Yeah. Once again, this is TLWA as opposed to newly infected.
Thank you. Somebody's paying attention. It's hard to do this and actually follow the slides at the same time. But again, Oakland is definitely the epicenter for our epidemic here in Alameda County is pretty obvious. Percentage of late diagnoses, and this is where we spent a lot of time here recently. We had a late diagnosis project. I see Carla and Ben, and I want to thank you for all your research there. We've done a lot of work in collaboration together with Pangea on the late diagnosis. You can see that across the board, there are significant numbers of people who test late. There are many reasons for this. I shared with you my own story, but I can remember when I was deciding to get tested way back late 80s. The question was there insurance? Could you do anything about it? There's all these conventional assumptions that were sort of out there that there was nothing that could be done, so why do I need to know? It's a vastly different picture today, and yet we still have 38, 40% of people testing late for a variety of reasons, many of which have to do with their emotional belief systems about what they know or believe about HIV and what can be done. So we need to change these figures. Proportion of late diagnoses, AIDS diagnosed between 2006-2010 in Alameda County, again by race and ethnicity. You can see that African Americans are at 46%, the largest number, whites at 23% and Latinos at 20%, and APIs at 8%. Again, this is what shows up when somebody actually diagnosed, and the definition for late testing, early diagnosis means that you either have an AIDS diagnosis at the time that you are diagnosed, or you move to an AIDS diagnosis within a year's time of first being diagnosed with HIV. So I'm saying that again because I think these numbers are still not reflecting the actual picture. Percentage of late HIV diagnoses, AIDS diagnosed between 2006 and 2010 in Alameda County by mode of transmission. And again, you can see the various behavioral risk groups: MSM 36.1, IDUs 42.9, MSM and IDU 42.6, and heterosexual contact 44.7%, and then the unknown, which would be great to be able to unpack that unknown number because it's a very large number. So then the spectrum of engagement in HIV care and its relevance to test and treat strategies for prevention of HIV infection. You can see that we have quite a number of people who are not in care, we know that, and we're trying to move them to be actually in care. So this is kind of, I think, another way of talking about the whole Gardner cascade, moving people from not knowing their status and knowing their status to actually being engaged in care, to being adherent to the treatment, to actually being undetectable, which is where you want to get folks to be. Keep going. Understand. Okay.
All right.
How do I do? Good.